Prize.
I can remember words to the effect that the black guy would not finish the game.
Two photographers expose one of the most shocking incidents in college football. We now return with Moment of Impact, stories of the Pulitzer Prize photographs on TNT. The Pulitzer Prize was created in 1911 by newspaper publisher Joseph Pulitzer to reward excellence in journalism, drama, and literature. The first photography prize was awarded in 1942, 9 years before our next story. The setting: a brilliant October day in 1951. Fans cheered as two undefeated football teams collided on an Oklahoma playing field. It was a time of optimism in post-war America. The country was booming. Opportunities abounded. But beneath the confidence and prosperity lay profound racial tensions which would come furiously to life as Drake University and Oklahoma A&M battled it out in a spirited football game. Donald Oldtang and John Robinson photographed the events on the Oklahoma playing field that day. A moment of impact that laid bare one of the most divisive social issues in America. As he traveled to assignments for the Des Moines Register, photographer Donald Oldtang teamed up with John Robinson. They flew a single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza, which Oldtang piloted himself.
We had flown almost 2.5 years covering Big Ten games, so I'd gotten to the point where I really thought I was flying in a big-time operation. We could cover games anywhere in the country that we wanted.
October 20th, 1951. The Drake University Bulldogs and the Oklahoma Aggies met on the Stillwater, Oklahoma playing field. Both the Aggies and the Bulldogs were undefeated. The Bulldogs were also fielding one of college football's most potent on-field weapons, player number 43, halfback Johnny Bright.
We had speculated as to what Bright's reception would be. Bright was in a very special position at that game. He was going onto a field where a black man wasn't really accepted.
Johnny Bright was a two-time NCAA total offense champion who had gained more yards than any player in collegiate history. He was one of 6 African Americans on the Drake team. Drake's competition, the Aggies, was an all-white team. At that time, Oklahoma A&M, like many Southern colleges, did not admit African American students. This created tensions for athletes and fans alike. Ray Island was a friend of Bright's who ran on the Drake track team.
It was a horrible time for us. We were an integrated team in a kind of a segregated conference. The schools didn't even admit Afro-American students at the time. We had great teams at Drake, and that always kind of overcomes the sadness of what we had to face on the field.
The South was still racially segregated in the 1950s. Integrated Northern teams had to make special arrangements for their African-American athletes when they played in the South.
We couldn't even eat and sleep in the hotels where the other athletes were. But I had warned John before going down there that I'd run track there in the spring, and it might be a little hazardous.
Despite his friend's warning, Johnny Bright took to the field with the rest of his teammates. One of them was fullback Gene Maycomber.
John was 6'1", 210 pounds, leading ground gainer in America.
black, and we had to play in the South. And I can remember the day before the game on campus, words to the effect that the black guy would not finish the game. He knew he was a marked man.
Just before kickoff, Oldtang and Robinson took up positions high in the stands, each using his own specially modified equipment.
I had this camera to use, which is a howitzer. It takes one photograph per play and covers about half of the field.
John Robinson was using a movie camera that had been reconfigured to take a series of still frame photographs. Only minutes into one of the most hotly contested games of the season, the Bulldog center snapped the ball to Johnny Bright. Bright handed off to fullback Gene Makeover. The play ended on the Bulldogs' 39-yard line.
I'd watched the ball player who had gotten the ball handled to him, made an exposure at that time. Much to my surprise, at the end of the play, Bright was lying on the ground, unconscious as it turned out.
I was carrying the ball. I didn't see the hit, but I saw the celebration after the hit when he handed the ball off to me. I was a fullback. Instead of completing his spin and going off to the side and faking, he would take a couple of steps and stop and look back at where the ball was.
Bright's stance made him a perfect target for defensive end Will Banks Smith, who hit Bright squarely in the jaw. In the stands, nobody knew what had happened.
And we both looked at one another and wondered whether or not anyone had seen any specific blow struck. As we got ready for the next play, we were still saying, I wonder what happened. And Bright got back and threw a pass for a touchdown. Drake was ahead 6-0, then 7-0.
Bright kept up his relentless offense, but Will Banks Smith continued his attacks, hitting Bright repeatedly in the face. Finally, Bright went down for good, buried under a pile of Aggie players. No whistle had been blown, no referee had made a call. The fans, the press, and the officials had all been watching the ball, and Bright had not had the ball.
Bright, at that point, had been knocked unconscious 4 times. He was taken off the field and never entered the game again.
He was very badly hurt. His jaw was wired together for almost 2 months. He couldn't eat, he couldn't talk, he couldn't even express what had happened to him. And they did intentionally plan to get John out of that game. There's no doubt in my mind about that at all.
With Bright out of the game, Oklahoma went on to beat Drake 27-14. Oldtang and Robinson raced to their plane. With Oldtang at the controls, they flew back to Des Moines, wondering if their cameras had recorded what their eyes had failed to see.
We were met by people rushing to us saying, what have you got? And we're saying, we're not sure. I went into a dark room to handle my 4x5 film, and I can recall a picture editor looking over my shoulder, and I was bringing the hangers out of the water. I said, I can see an elbow in Bright's face. I'm still amused at his response, which was, have you got anything more? I thought I'd had quite a bit there.
In the next morning's Register, Oldtang and Robinson's photographs splashed the shocking chronology of Bright's injury across the sports section's entire front page. The photographs caused an enormous sensation.
the racial angle captured the imagination of all sports followers in the country. Nobody had realized that a black man could be pummeled the way he was and deliberately run out of the game.
In protest, Drake University withdrew from the Missouri Valley Conference. It also severed athletic relations with Oklahoma A&M. The assault on Bright changed college football. Players began wearing mouthpieces and face masks. New NCAA rules required that players be suspended for flagrantly rough play or unsportsmanlike behavior. In 1952, Altang and Robinson won the Pulitzer Prize. John Robinson died in 1972. Today, Donald Altang speaks of their groundbreaking photographs with characteristic modesty.
People ask me about winning a Pulitzer Prize, and I say it's wonderful, but I think I was just in the right place at the right time. The country lost a great athlete after the incident at Stillwater, Oklahoma. Turning down offers from the pros, Johnny Bright left the United States and went to play for the Canadian Football League. America has changed dramatically since 1951. Diversity is now recognized as essential to our future. But issues of racial and social injustice are very much alive.